This my car, I need to. Kilo, that red. Hey, this my car, I need to. That red, dude.
So Kilo, I ain't gonna be stupid extra out. I see Kilo again, bang on me again. I'm like, weirdo, bro, I'm from Funky Crip. Extra out. I'm pretty sure he got big ass LK on the side of his neck. Kilo breathe on there. So extra out. They finally ended up convincing him to fight Kilo, and Kilo like low-key dusty mother.
In today's video, we're gonna talk about Kilo, aka Brayz's co-defendant from the WhosWhos. We're gonna break down his court cases and how he was one of the first people to be arrested for that big case that Brayz was on. And how even though there were 4 people on that case, him and Brayz would be sentenced to the most time. Kilo would only be arrested 2 times as an adult, and he would only have 2 cases, including that Brayz one. But now let's get into it. Kilo would first be arrested at the age of 19, and he would be charged with 2 counts of possession of a gun. The first penal code would be carrying a concealed weapon, specifically firearms, on one person or in a vehicle without a valid permit. And the second count, or the second penal code he was charged with, would be carrying a loaded firearm in a public place or on a public street. And as you see to the top left, he would be arrested September 7th of 2015, and he would take a plea deal 2 days later, as you see to the right, on September 9th of 2015. But he would have the second count dismissed, and he would be convicted only of the first count. And for this case, he would get 3 years of probation, 5 days in the county jail, and 30 days in a program. And he would be sentenced on the same day he took the plea deal, which would be September 9th of 2015. But 3 months after that, in the beginning of 2016, his life would change. He would be 20 at this time, and this is the case that he caught with Brayz and 2 other co-defendants. We're gonna break down the evidence against Kilo in the trial. The other video I made about Brayz, I highlighted just Brayz's part, but this one's gonna just be about Kilo. Now let's get into it. We're gonna start off with a timeline of the accusations that they're accusing them of. And as you see, they're alleging that it started on February 21st of 2016, when Brayz would kill somebody named Nathaniel Ankar. Somebody named Letitia W was in the car with Ankar, but she wasn't hit, and she would be a witness on that case. Now we're gonna move on to March 18th. They would accuse Kilo of firing his gun and killing somebody named Caitlin Warren, who was driving by on one of them little mini bikes. Then 2 days later, on March 20th of 2016, they're alleging that Brayz, Kilo, and one other person would go to a rival neighborhood and open fire, and the Crips would return fire at Brayz and Kilo. Nobody from either side was hit in that exchange though. But then the next day, on March 21st of 2016, at 11 p.m. at night, they're saying that Brayz, Kilo, and one other person went and killed somebody named Steven Johnson in the Hoover neighborhood. And on top of that, they were hit with a bunch of other things, like carjacking and gun possessions. But as you can see, the last day they were accusing them of committing crimes was March 21st of 2016. And as you can see right here, Kilo would be picked up the next day on March 22nd of 2016 for the big case with him and Brayz and 2 other co-defendants. And if you look to the top right, you can see the filing date would be March 24th of 2016. But then exactly 3 months later, on June 24th of 2016, they would file Brayz's case, and he would be hit with the same things as Kilo. But then 2 months later, on August 5th of 2016, one of the co-defendants that was present during the Steven Johnson murder would be apprehended, and he was only hit with 1 count of murder and 1 count of possession of a gun. And one of the co-defendants from the shooting with the Crips would be apprehended almost 2 years later. As you see, the filing date to the top right would be May 11th of 2018, but he was only hit with 3 counts, 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit any crime. But now let's dive into the court facts and the trial transcripts. We're gonna start with this first, since this was the first crime they were charged with allegedly. And as you can see, it says Bonner fired multiple shots, which would be Brayz. And there would be 2 witnesses for the situation, but we're gonna start off with Letitia W, because she was in the car with Ankar during the time of the shooting, which would be the victim. And as you see, it says during the investigation, detectives showed Letitia W photographs of possible suspects, but she was not able to identify the shooter at first. And at the first hearing, she would testify the same thing and say she could not identify anybody in the courtroom that was the shooter. But after the hearing, she would text the detective and say that she recognized somebody in the courtroom as the shooter, but she identified Kilo, not Brayz, as the shooter. However, somebody named Samantha D was shown a 6-pack of photographs by detectives on April 13th of 2016, and she identified Brayz as the shooter and identified him at trial again. And as you see right here, Bonner would be Brayz. It says that Brayz notes that Letitia W. testified it was Parker, not Bonner, who fired at the Tahoe, and argues that given the conflicting evidence, the jury could not have concluded beyond a reasonable doubt that Bonner was the shooter. Bonner also suggested that Letitia W.'s identification was more credible than Samantha D.'s, saying that Letitia W. saw both him and Parker at the hearing and made it a point to identify Parker and not Bonner. He also said that Samantha D.'s identification was unreliable because she testified that she was not looking for details when she was looking for the shooter. And even though it says Bonner notes, I'm pretty sure that they meant Bonner's counsel notes, but I could be wrong. And if I am, correct me in the comments. And let me know what you guys think in the comments also about that. So one witness that was ahead of them is saying that it was Brayz that did it. And the witness that was inside the car with the victim is saying that it was Kilo that did it. And the next count would be the murder of Kaylin Warren that happened on March 18th of 2016. And on that day, Kaylin Warren was riding a mini bike west on 76th Street when a person inside a light-colored sedan shot at him multiple times at 2:30 in the afternoon. And as you see, it would happen in the white circle, and that would be the Mad Swan blood territory. Kaylin Warren wasn't a gang member, but it's alleged that Kilo did it just because he was on the mini bike. And I guess at that time, they were allegedly beefing with somebody from Hoover that was riding mini bikes. And now we're going to talk about the next count that happened on March 20th of 2016, when Brayz, Kilo, and one other person would approach rival Crips and get into a shootout with them. Brayz and Kilo would be tried together on the same trial, but Clayton, as you can see right there, he would be tried separate. We're going to break down his sentence right now, and then we're going to double back to Kilo's sentence. And like we said, this co-defendant would be the last one to be arrested. But on January 7th of 2020, 4 years later after the shooting, he would take a plea deal. He'd be convicted of 1 count of attempted murder, and then the other 2 counts would be dismissed. They ended up giving him 15 years, 5 years for the crime, and then 10 years for enhancements. But now let's break down the final victim, and we're going to break down Kilo's sentencing. And this count would happen on March 21st of 2016, around 11:20 at night. Kilo and Brayz would allegedly jump out and shoot Steven Johnson. And the third co-defendant, who they address as Brayz, would be the driver. This would be the one that happened in the Hoovers that we talked about in Brayz's story. But during trial, on October 7th of 2017, Brayz would report to the courts that Kilo and Brayz threatened to kill him if he didn't take the blame for Johnson's murder. The court would then ask Brayz if he was threatened by both defendants, and he would answer, yes, I was. But regardless, they were all found guilty, and Brayz would receive 40 years to life for the murder, and then 3 years for the possession of a gun. And remember, Kilo and Brayz would have the same charges, but the other 2 co-defendants didn't. But Kilo would be found guilty on every single count. He would get 235 years plus 7 life sentences. Now let's break down how. He would receive 50 years to life for the conspiracy to commit any crime. He would receive 15 years for the robbery. As you see, it says 5, but if you look in the comments, you can see for a total term of 15 years because they hit him with a 10-year enhancement on that. Then he would get 40 years to life for 1 count of attempted murder, and then 32 years to life for the other count. Then he would get 3 years for carrying a loaded firearm, 8 months for another gun, 7 years for taking a vehicle without consent. As you see, it says 3, but if you look in the comments, it says for a total term of 7 years because they hit him with a 4-year enhancement on that. Then he would get life without parole for 1 murder, and he would get 3 years in state prison for carrying a loaded firearm again. Then he would be hit with 14 years for assault with a firearm on a person. As you see, it says 4 years, but if you look in the comments, it says for a total term of 14 years because they hit him with a 10-year gang enhancement. He would then get another 3 years for carrying a loaded gun again, and then he would get life without parole for another murder. Then he would get 40 years to life for shooting at a vehicle, and then 3 years for another carrying a gun charge. And on top of that, he would have to serve most of these counts consecutive. But either way, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Comment, like, and subscribe. I appreciate y'all. It's Respectable Rants.